While the Senate Guard, or the Blue Guard, wasn't completely useless, it certainly wasn't quite up to the task of protecting the senators and supreme chancellors of the Republic, and that was a serious bummer, as its glorified lampshades stood alongside the Galactic Senate from when it was founded 25,053 years before the Battle of Yavin, right up until it withered in the shadow of the Empire. Okay, maybe glorified lampshades was a little harsh. The Senate Guard was an elite security force and it was relatively well equipped. It's just hard to look past some of its blunders, especially when we don't, as nerds outside the Star Wars universe, have access to the Senate Guard's full operational history. I'm sure they did some good in their 25,000-ish years, but in Star Wars The Clone Wars in particular, they were little more than cannon fodder. In this video, we're going to outline what the Senate Guard was and then discuss some of its failures, ensuring to trash it as often as we can along the way.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Again, the Senate Guard was tasked with protecting senators and supreme chancellors, though it also offered a helping blue hand to the Coruscant security force, undertook a fair bit of investigative and forensic work itself, and kept a rather lazy eye on the senators' dealings, making sure they weren't passing dirty credits under the table or sticking their fingers in the wrong patsoga. As with most defense organizations, the Senate Guard was comprised of various divisions and ranks, though the division best dressed for combat and most like a unit of clone troopers, aka actual soldiers, was the Senate Commandos. As far as ranks go, guardsmen started off as privates and could work their way up, theoretically, to the rank of Captain of the Guard, the unfortunate being who answered directly to the Senate Committee. Most Senate Guards hung around like bad smells in the sterile halls of chambers in the Senate building of Coruscant, dressed in blue bedsheets and sporting sci-fi reskins of Greek hoplite helmets. It wasn't all dress up and loitering though. Some members of the Guard left Coruscant on escort missions, stargazing and ensuring the safety of the senators to which they were assigned. In case you can't tell, ensuring the safety was in quotation marks. If the guardsmen weren't so lucky to find themselves on a diplomatic spacecraft with, let's say, the foxy ex-Queen Amidala, they could, at the very least, wander out into the Senate district to stretch their legs or undertake menial cleaning tasks with their ridiculous heads. Gotta find some way to pay that interspecies child support, right? So, why would anybody consider the Senate Guard elite? Well, on paper, the Blues would only consider candidates of outstanding ability and undying loyalty to the Republic, searching for such beings in the galaxy's best law enforcement agencies. Candidates went through extensive training, less if they had previously been a cop, and the Senate Commandos, who were meant to be the very tip of the lightsaber, undertook grueling 4-week training programs. 4 weeks. I couldn't possibly. Off paper, the Senate Guard was far more who you know than what you know, and ranks were handed to sons and daughters as casually as Anakin carved up the Jedi younglings in Revenge of the Sith. This was the root of the problem, but before we go ahead and tear the Senate Guard a new one, a little on the specific skill sets of the guardsmen, because despite my tone so far, they could use lethal force and probably still would have wiped the floor with a weeb like me. Senate Guards could whirl a force pike, my favourite vibrating weapon, around without tasing themselves or sawing through their thighs and femurs for the most part, and they could burn holes in things with their MK2 Paladin blaster rifles on the odd occasion as well. When Petrou really hit the fan, they could also out-yoga some of their very weakest opponents, using their aggression against them with the Hijkata martial arts discipline, and they could also forego their speeders for more heavily armed assault vehicles. So now that we've outlined what the Senate Guard was, let's discuss a few occasions on which it dropped the ball. This first example illustrated the flaws of the Who You Know recruitment system beautifully. In 22 BBY, the Separatists executed a plan to free the Trade Federation's Viceroy Newt Gunray from the Republic, who were holding him captive on a Star Destroyer headed to the capital. While Dooku deployed droids and the Mad Lass Asajj Ventress to sort it out, he also had a man on the inside, a Senate Commando captain. This gloating fool, Farah Argos, was a 5th generation Senate guard, and he likely would have never earned himself a set of blue armor if his daddy didn't serve it up to him on a plate. All it took was a bit of a bribe and the thrill of something other than Republic servitude, and Farah betrayed the Republic, killing his own men and helping Ventress break the snotty Nemoidian war criminal out of the Republic's grip. This was clearly not the deed of being with an undying loyalty to the Galactic Republic. In the end, Farah Argos got what he deserved when Ventress thrust her crimson lightsaber through his spine and out of his sternum, alien chestburster style.
You see, assassin, our plan went off without a hitch.
Our plan. I'll tell him myself. Greetings, Viceroy.
I always had a good feeling about you, assassin.
The best example of the Senate Guard's ineptitude, however, was the Senate hostage crisis of 21 BBY. Cad Bane, Aurra Sing, and a few other bounty hunters and some commando droids simply set their ship down on a landing platform on the Senate building and turned a squad of Senate commandos into corpses in a matter of seconds. Like a 12e shooting non-aggressive bots in COD, Sing picked off most of the commandos with her sniper rifle, while Cad Bane tackled the unit's captain and broke his neck. The commando droids then outfitted themselves in the dead guardsman's blue armor, and the bounty hunters continued into the Senate building. As they furthered their way in, the bounty hunters killed many more, and in one instance, Cad Bane rolled a thermal detonator into Senate Commando barracks, where around 10 of them were standing around like bowling pins, killing most of them in one blinding flash. The only guardsman who didn't die in the initial explosion begged for his life before Sing ended it with a blaster bolt. The Senate Guard's failure to react to this attack resulted in the very beings they were tasked to protect becoming the hostages of Cad Bane, or corpses, just like the Senate commandos out on the landing platform. The senators might have expected more from their elite protectors.
I don't know who you think you are, but I, for one, have no intention of listening to this kind of insolence.
All right then. If you'll all gather at the center of this lovely atrium, my co-workers and I will relieve you of any communication devices.
The next Senate Guard failure happened off-screen, so to speak, at least in the context of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. In 20 BBY, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine presided the Festival of Light on Naboo, though a squad of bounty hunters, spearheaded once more by Cad Bane, had other plans, disguising themselves as Senate commandos with holographic disguise matrices and, for a short while, kidnapping the Supreme Chancellor. Now, almost every Senate commando present at the festival was a bounty hunter in disguise, meaning the commandos who were supposed to be at the festival had been subdued before the festival, allowing the bounty hunters to take their place. If this wasn't all just part of Palpatine's game, it may have ended disastrously for the Republic, and again, it was just absolutely poor form by the Senate Guard's Senate commandos, the very best of the lot. Once more, the day was saved by the Jedi. Overall, I think it's safe to say the Senate Guard may once, in its 25,000-ish years, have been a formidable security force, though generations and generations of keeping it in the family diluted this formidability and left the Guard prone to corruption. Also, the Senate Guard wasn't an army, and as such, didn't so often venture out into the field and put itself to the test. Conversely, opponents hardened by battle and war made very short work of the atrophied Guard. They simply had the advantage of experience, especially in both cases of Cad Bane and his bounty hunters' ruthlessness as well. Though, what are your guys' thoughts? Were we too harsh on the Senate Guard, or do you also think that its guardsmen were little more than glorified lampshades, standing around in the Senate building and doing a whole lot of nothing? Either way, can you think of anything else the Senate Guard royally screwed up, or maybe did well? Let us know in the comments section below. And just before you go guys, make sure you check out those links, including our Geetsly's gaming network, where you can join us on our Gary's Mod and our upcoming massive Roblox server, our main Discord server where you can chat with other like-minded Star Wars fans, and the Patreon if you want to help support the channel. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video.